Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. President Donald J. Trump had a couple of messages to the Davos crowd this week. One, of course, was about Greenland, and it appears they heard him and things are going well in that regard. But another was about nations, that America first should also be England first, France first, Germany first. The idea of protecting each nation's distinctions instead of melting into a global empire. In the Bible, the prophet Daniel was given a vision of global politics from his time until the end of time. The statue of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and iron mixed with clay. We can look back on the empires of history and see Babylon, the nation of gold, or Medo-Persia, silver, Greece was the bronze, and Rome was iron. And we're now in this quasi-iron mixed with clay portion of the vision given to Daniel. I believe it's a time of shifting alliances, possibly not the exact scenario in the end times, but very close, if you ask me. However, the idea of a new global empire is what President Trump is fighting against. He is preaching the benefits of nationhood. And this is important because the attack on nation states is an attack on Jesus. And Psalm 2, verse 8, it depicts the Father saying to Jesus, "Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance and the ends of the earth for your possession." Jesus Christ is coming back to rule over sovereign nations, not a global empire. And I believe President Trump is being led by God to hold back the attack on the inheritance promised to Jesus. And I trust also that he will succeed until the appropriate time. So God bless you, President Donald J. Trump. With that, welcome, Mr. Levine. How are you this morning?
I'm doing okay, Chuck. That's quite a opening monologue you came up with there.
Yeah, well, every once in a while you see a little bit of history melting into the biblical prophetic side of things, and uh, you need to get people thinking because you know, the 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 future of America has far less to do with who's in power as it has to do with the moral fiber of our nation. Uh,
Well,
and of course,
my interpretation of your opening is that we have to go through decades and decades of doing the absolute wrong thing until we figure out that it's wrong. I mean, the idea that you can't blend ideologies who are bent on killing each other into the same nation and have peace um, and uh, and serenity in your cities and towns and communities. Yet that's what we were attempting to do here in the United States, and of course now they want to do it all around the world. So like for example, you get two dogs that don't like each other. Male dogs are a great example. Probably a good idea would be just separate them, Chuck, right? But of course, we again in America, we're committed to do. I think Winston Churchill actually said it. America will always do the right thing after they've tried everything else.
there you go.
So that's
There
a
you go.
nice little summary by Winston Churchill of what you just said, in my opinion. Go
There
ahead.
you go. There you go. Yeah, well, in our Tuesday program, we talked about HB 299. We didn't quite get through it, so I thought I'd do a little bit of an overview of it before we get too far into it. One of the things we wanted to note was one of our local representatives, Nan Cobb, is on the committee, the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, and in this regard, in this HB 299, she didn't vote. Do you have any opinion on why that might be the case?
Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, Chuck, that Nan Cobb knows that her constituents hate this bill, and she wasn't going to vote against it because that would be voting against her overlords. So the only moderation she could find was to skip the vote. And just for the people who you know weren't there for Tuesday's video and haven't seen it, HB 299 is another massive development bill that the state of Florida is trying to push down the throats of local government, Chuck.
Yes, what I thought I'd do is do a brief review of Tuesday's program, starting with the idea that Nan did not vote, which we kind of missed Tuesday. Um, One of the things we mentioned is that, these representatives don't typically write legislation. They're just asked to support legislation by some sort of special interest. And the organizations that support legislation are more important to the legislators than the legislation itself. These are the things that we mentioned, in bringing us to this particular bill.
I'd like to comment
This,
on that quickly, Chuck, if you don't mind.
yeah, please do.
Yeah, why do you think they hate the Republican executive committees writing resolutions? Because now the Republican executive committees are a special interest and they're doing exactly what the other special interests are doing. And they're telling legislators what they want, how they want them to vote, and about the bills they want sponsored. So when you let the Republican executive committee start writing resolutions, then you're actually competing with special interests who pay them to do what the special interest wants done, Chuck. So I just wanted
Yeah,
to
they
throw that in there, put that whole ongoing battle about resolutions and RECs into context, Chuck.
Right. So we mentioned that the Live Local Act and SB 180 were two pieces of legislation that we would love to repeal. And then the legislature responds to that with this HB 299, which creates blue ribbon projects designed to urbanize our state and our counties into clusters of density connected by transportation modals. Um, and although there are a lot of good resource management ideas in there, they look good, but you mentioned that these are the things that can be negotiated out of the legislation once it's passed. Um, we
Yep. So let me comment if
likened,
you don't mind.
please.
Yeah. So basically, that's what happens, right? So what the state is doing, and keep in mind, the state has every right to do this. The state charters counties and the state charters cities. Okay. Cities have no rights other than the rights that are given to them by the state. So the question becomes, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay. Cities and counties should support the efforts of the state. They should be a working group, particularly in the area of development. And of course, because citizens live in cities and counties, they should have a lot to say about the way their development plans are implemented, in my opinion. Okay. Um, so the point is, Chuck, like if you've ever watched development programs go through your county commission or even your city council, you'll find that the landowner, usually in conjunction with the developer, will come in and make a presentation to the governing board, whether it's a municipality or a county. And they'll come in and they'll put together something that they can get across the finish line. Okay, great. So eventually they massage their development plan into something that the county or city will approve. And then what they do is they come back for amendment, 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 amendment. And they're constantly, just because you get it across the finish line doesn't mean it's going to be built out in the same format that it was originally approved. So this bill 299 effectively gives a landowner or developer 75 years to constantly massage this plan. And it neuters the cities and counties from withdrawing or retracting the approval. Now you're going to go to court. Oh, you're telling me that you approved my project under the blue ribbon project plan 2 years ago, and I've spent all this money, going to get my 10,000 acre or larger parcel prepared to implement this development plan, and now you're withdrawing my approval? I'm going to sue you, right? So it neuters the cities and counties and then just gives the developers 75 years to beat on these local regulatory agencies until the developer gets what they want, Chuck.
There you go. We also noted, we kind of made not a distinction, a correlation between Barack Obama's housing proposals and what we're seeing with 180, 299, and Live Local. They pretty much are Barack Obama's housing proposals put in place by Republicans. Um,
Well, just keep in mind, Chuck, that over the years that I said last on Tuesday, that we've had all kinds of state. Well, again, I think it was called Smart Growth was the organization that was going around the state 20 years ago, and this is exactly what Smart Growth was saying. So yes, the Obama administration through the Department of Housing and Urban Development did come up with a plan, development plan that is exactly. If you really want to see it, look at Live Local because that is verbatim Barack Obama's plan. This plan is a little bit different, but just keep in mind, Chuck, as I just got finished saying, that the original approval, which is forced upon local government, is never going to be withdrawn. Okay, it's just going to be amended and changed over time until everybody gets what they want. And then again, I also want to remind people that I did write the land use equilibrium paper, which was my response to land use development. And it's on my Facebook page under facebook.com/Levine Asset Management. If you scroll through there, you'll find my land use equilibrium plan, which I think is reasonable and it puts local government back in the conversation, Chuck.
there you go. Because we also noted that local land use legislation is wiped out with this legislation, as you just
Totally
so
wiped out,
eloquently
erased.
erased, right? Um, Talks about economic development and high wage jobs uh, while building small, affordable housing developments. How does that work?
That high wage earners don't want to live in.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm getting at,
So what they're
right?
really telling you, if you read between the lines, Chuck, they're saying that we're again how we've been hearing about high wage jobs since I was in my entire professional career, and we've yet to achieve it. Okay, because nobody's interested. Chuck, in the supply chain, show me who benefits from paying employees more. Okay. Business has just not figured that out. And the Ivy League schools have been teaching their business students the opposite for so long that it is deeply entrenched into the psychology of our business leaders who graduate from these Ivy League schools. So, there's never going to be high wage jobs under this program. So that's why they're building little tiny houses and tiny apartment complexes because they want you to live in a tiny little house on your tiny little salary, Chuck.
Right. They call that missing middle housing. And they require that 20% of the residential area must be affordable small homes and small apartment complexes as opposed to, I guess, big ones. And the
And
final thing
then,
that we
Chuck, we're going to get
discussed,
into more detail on that
yes,
too,
we
because
will.
there's more to that story coming up.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But let me just finish one of the last things we talked about in Tuesday's program is that 80%, 85% of the area of this 10,000 plus piece of real estate could be concrete. They're only
No,
allow
will be concrete.
only
Will
15%
be
of the land
concrete.
is will be able to absorb any water coming from any of these hurricanes and et cetera, et cetera.
Impervious, right?
Yeah, yeah.
85% can be impervious.
Again, we finished up with this middle housing and residential affordability. Um, and the next section that we wanted to talk about is that, and I guess you've kind of already talked about it, the project may be developed in phases, and you basically mentioned that those phases could take up to 75 years.
Phases are good. I have no problem with phases,
Yeah, right.
right?
Um,
Mhm.
So development rights and mitigation impacts are vested for the first 50 years, and then they must be extended for another 25 years under certain circumstances. We kind of talked about that in general as we move along.
So think about
Um,
that, Chuck. That is a landowner's lifetime. You
yeah,
are hereby entitled to this program for the entirety of your life. Okay. Keeping in mind that if you're, 10 years old, you're not going to be applying for a development plan under the blue ribbon plan, right? So you're going to be at least 25 probably. I mean, how many people are doing big development projects before they're 25? Not many. Some,
Yeah.
but not many. So the idea is that 75 years equals 100 years, okay? Because you're not starting when you're born. So this thing, it covers your entire lifetime. And keep in mind, Chuck, this is another major point on this, that once those development rights are in place, that property is saleable under the new development rights. So you just added major value from an agricultural parcel of land to a multi-use planned unit development, right? So that the it is the value of the property goes up exponentially the minute they get that approval, and the cities and counties are prohibited from denying them the approval. Chuck,
There you go. So the project must must have a blue ribbon development plan, including long-term master development map, and establishing reserve areas and development areas. We talked about those reserve areas a little while ago, saying that those are the kinds of things that get kind of processed out once the entire plan is approved. Any more
and
comments
just
on
so you know,
that?
Chuck, this is not speculation on my part. Ask any county commissioner, and they will tell you how many times I've been in county commission meetings where commissioners have looked at developers right in the eyes and said, you know what, this is the fifth time you've been in front of this body on this project. So they chisel, chisel, chisel. Chuck, think of the money that's involved in these projects. I mean, tens of millions minimum, could be hundreds of millions of dollars here. So, do you think these people strategize? Think about the most sophisticated strategy you could put in place to maximize the value of 10,000 acres or more. These people are going to be coming back to the well over and over and over again. Keep in mind, as soon as you get the entitlement here, you're going to publish that you have the entitlement, and then, home builders and commercial office park developers and retail center developers, they're going to be swarming into you. Hey, we want a piece of this. We want a piece of this. Oh, you know what though? This is what you got on your plan, but we think it'd be better if it looked like this. And now you go back to the city or county and say, hey, we need an amendment to our blue ribbon project. Okay, great. Here's your amendment. Then you go back a year later, they're back in front of you again because they're in front of another builder, let's just call them, right? The developer develops a project and then the builders build it out. So it's a constant evolution, and the entitlement will never be withdrawn, Chuck.
Yeah. So again, just to try to, our time always seems to be slipping away. We have a little bit more going on here. I'm going to throw a few different comments here that all kind of work together. It must include a water conservation measure that forecast demand for water. That's good. Water and waste water facilities must be provided in compliance with particular code. Wastewater may be provided by an applicant, special district, local government, or
Here we
state
go.
government. So that's all about water, just to try to keep moving through to the end of this
Let,
thing
let me
here.
tell you something, Chuck. Go down to the dollar for dollar part. Can you just scan through your checklist there till you see the part that says that the developer must be reimbursed on a dollar for dollar basis if they add public buildings or if they add public infrastructure? Then the developer has to be compensated on a dollar for dollar basis based on the value added to government, Chuck. So
Right. It
this
says if the project,
straps.
I've written here, if
Go
the
ahead.
project contributes land or funds or causes the construction of public facilities, the project must receive dollar for dollar credit for impact, mobility, proportionate share, or other fee credits from the local government. There you have it, right?
So now you're forcing local government to take the project, and then you're forcing local government to pay into it when the project creates, public infrastructure.
There you go.
So
The
again, you know,
plan,
this is, I mean, the worst thing possible. You know, it really is. You know, I mean, basically, you force your local governments to do this, and then you punish them by you're really giving all the power to the developer who just take you to court. Just take you to court. Read the development plan. Read the law. The local government must do this. It says in the law they must cooperate with you. They must put financial resources towards this. Right. This is just honestly uh, you know, the word autocracy continues to come to my mind as I watch and see what this legislature has done over the last few legislative sessions, Chuck.
yes, and again, it says that this blue ribbon project can be applied to land regardless of current land use status. So again, that just throws out the local land development um,
Why do we
policy.
bother to do development plans?
Right.
Why? Because we're just going to erase it, cut and paste, copy paste, boom, and it goes. And then everything we've done in the past is for nothing.
Right. And along with those same lines, it says comprehensive land use amendments or zoning changes may not be required for the approval of the project. And the landowner may apply to local governments for approval of a project, and the project meets the requirements of blue ribbon projects. It must be administratively approved. In other words, if it is a blue ribbon project, it meets all the requirements. It must,
Administratively approved, which means no hearings.
right.
That's what that
No
means, Chuck.
further.
When it says administratively approved, that means the city manager pretty much puts it on the consent agenda at the county commission meeting. That's it.
Yeah, well, it also says that the local government has 60 days to comment on a project's qualifications. Local government has 30 days to respond to any amendments, so they can talk about it. It doesn't sound like they can do anything about it.
Well, the only thing they could do would be point out areas of the plan that are inconsistent with the blue ribbon project plan set forth in this bill. That's the only recourse they have. And of course, then what's the developer going to do? He's going to go back and tweak the plan a little bit and resubmit. And then they have 30 days to respond to his resubmittal,
Right.
right?
And if they
That's
don't
it. So
respond in a,
eventually, the developer or the landowner is going to get this thing into shape where it's mandatory for the local government to approve it. Long story short. So you know what, Chuck? This is where we're at. As long as you don't mind the state of Florida dictating everything that goes on in your cities and counties, which they have the constitutional right to do, okay, then you're going to be fine. But I would suggest let's withdraw the charters of these cities and counties. I mean, if the state wants to run it, run it. Why would we have these intermediaries if the state wants to do it? Let the state do it. Let's cut all these salaries and wages and all this other stuff out of our budgets. And I say that, you know, rhetorically, I guess. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't really mean that well necessarily. I'm just saying that, I mean, all you're doing by creating municipalities and counties is just muddying up the water if the state's just going to drive their intentions right down your throat, whether you like it or not, right? Why bother? That's what I
yeah,
say.
well, yeah, obviously, we're not suggesting that we don't want cities or counties. We obviously do. We want local rule. But what we're suggesting is that so many of these bills that are coming up in Tallahassee are wiping out any home rule that is still holding on, and if in fact we can't have any rule, then we don't need rulers. We don't need county commissioners. We don't need city officials if they can't do anything but grab a paycheck at the end of the month.
Well, at the end of the day, Chuck, the whole thing here is this is the nature of government that people want these great jobs with great benefit packages and pensions and everything, and they really don't want to do the work. So at the end of the day, the answer to this is collaboration between the state and the county. And again, I've said many times that the comprehensive plan is required by the state of Florida to be updated every 10 years. Every city, every county, and should be 2 years, not 10 years, which means that we should be sitting around the table with the state of Florida every month hammering on our comprehensive plan so that the cities and counties have a voice in what's happening here and they can inform the state about what's going on in their communities so that the citizens are not trampled on, Chuck. That's
There you
what's going
go.
on. But the no, but the collaboration is a lot of work, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
honestly, what's the point I'm trying to make is, I mean, and this is the direction we're going all across the nation and the world, Chuck. Think about your opening monologue about globalism, right? Because the more voices you have at the table, the more difficult it is to get something done. True, absolutely. But that is the nature of our republic, Chuck.
There you go. Well, we've talked about a lot of different things, but we get to the bottom of this. It says any person whose substantial interests are damaged by an approved blue ribbon plan may petition to the Department of Commerce. And if the Department of Commerce receives that petition, it must hold a hearing. And a copy of the petition must be provided to local government. In the event of a petition, the applicant may intervene as a party to the hearing. While the applicant gets a chance to talk in the hearing. That's really nice of them.
Keep in mind, Chuck, that is after it's approved.
Right. Again,
After the project is approved.
right. So,
Yeah.
so pretty much we've gone through this 299, and what we're seeing again that it's just another power grab by the state, taking more and more authority away from the counties and cities and our state. And it just doesn't feel very good, does it? It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel very Republican. Uh,
Much worse than that, Chuck. It's much worse than that. So basically, this is the heavy hand of state government in an authoritarian, autocratic manner, shoving things down the throat of the people of this state, Chuck Benoit.
yes, again, autocracy is not republicanism, and we
Forget
again look at
republicanism, Chuck. The parties are gone. I mean, the party influence over this, believe me, this is the uniparty at work. There's one party in this country today, in this state today, and I can give you examples of where the leadership of the Republican Party of Florida is picking out and running legislation through Democrats, okay, that serves the Republican Party because it is no longer a separation between the political parties in the legislature in Tallahassee, Chuck, and I'm happy to prove it if anybody would care to debate the subject. Go
there
ahead.
we go. Well, again, we have kind of linked SB 180 and the Live Local Act and this HB 299. Basically, all three power grabs from the county toward the state. And we've determined that these are not Republican type legislations. They are far more autocratic. Um, uh, Bernie and AOC would say that they're oligarchic, but it's all the same. It's all the same. It's just, it's not a
Uniparty, in
democratic,
short.
it's not democratic in any way, shape, or form, and it certainly is not Republican. Um, and here we have here in Florida a Republican electorate that is they seem to be a bit blind to what's happening in our state and in our party. Please, people, we know this can be maybe a little boring going through legislation, but you need to understand. You need to understand who is governing and why and for whom, because it isn't for us. Mike, would you like to finish our time with your final overview?
Yeah, the final overview is that our state representative, Nan Cobb, knows that her constituents are opposed to HB 299, and she knows that she will be retaliated against if she opposes 299 because leadership is the problem here, Chuck. We all of our legislators are not bad people, but when they know that there will be serious consequences levied upon them if they step out of line and don't do what the leadership wants. And of course, I personally believe that Nan Cobb is totally fine with this bill. That's not what I'm saying. The good news is that Nan is afraid that if she voted on this bill, her constituents would punish her because she's very comfortable her entire career as Gary Borders, treasurer of Gary Borders' political campaign when he was running for sheriff. Obviously, she was the treasurer of Peyton Grinnell's campaign. She managed Peyton Grinnell's campaign. She's now in the Florida legislature doing what special interests want her to do there. So she's very comfortable with 299. She just doesn't want you to know she's comfortable with it. And that's why she skips the vote. And that is indicative of, well, again, my point is, that is not completely consistent with what I just said, is there are people in the legislature that want to represent their constituents. Nan Cobb just doesn't happen to be one of them. Our legislators need courage. We need to find some people in Tallahassee who are willing to respectfully debate and challenge leadership on these issues until we find some level of success. And then other legislators will jump on board, Chuck. Courage is contagious. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike Levine, and thank you all again for tuning into our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic, or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic -ROAR. Please like and share the program, and remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you, God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.